Hi, Josh.
Hi.
Welcome to my car. We're sitting here in Bjerringbro, and Josh, you're visiting Bjerringbro
Yep.
today from US.
Yep.
Can you shortly tell who you are?
Yeah, sure. My name is Josh Talley. I work with the Discovery and Design department here, but I'm the only guy that's sitting over in the U.S. I'm in the Kansas City office, and I've been at Grundfos for about 12 years doing engineering and product development, and so now I'm here, trying to see what's good coming up.
All right. And your department, that's very early in the design process of
Yeah,
products.
yeah, we're technically in the front-loading portion of product development, so discovering new business ideas or services, or talking with customers and trying to figure out, how we can improve a product to make it better for them to use.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So you speak to a lot of customers then,
Yes.
or
That's
you get insights from a lot of
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah. Just this next week, I've got a bunch of installations that we're doing, and I'm going to be following the customers around with a video camera and watching how
A
they. And
GoPro.
yeah, it's kind of what I need, or a Google Glass or something. But they're going to install this product. I'm going to ask them questions about, does it make sense how you do this, or would you like it a different way? And hopefully that will influence the final product to make it easier for
Ah.
them to use, and just more familiar. So
Are we sharing any of these experience to a greater audience in Grundfos?
a little bit. That information usually goes back to a project team. So if there's a particular project dedicated to a new line of products, then it should be available to everyone on that team,
Okay.
to, at least as a reference, so they can say, oh, well, these 5 customers have all said that we want this fitting to look like
Yeah.
this, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. If we look outside of Grundfos, any exciting, interesting things going on? I mean, I bet that you have your ears and your eyes in many
Yeah.
places at the same time.
Yeah, I try and keep track of a lot of things that, any buzz on the internet or whatever about different topics. And I actually saw something the other day. I get an email from Dig that's like the most shared stories. And this one in particular was talking about, I think her name's Megan Smith. She's the new CTO for the U.S. government. And she's a former Google employee. I
Oh,
can't remember what she was doing at Google, but now she's in charge of the entire IT infrastructure of the United States. And they were talking with her about, what she plans to do, and she was talking about how there's all this data that the U.S. taxpayers have been paying for years.
yeah.
Like, you know, any information the government collects, just, real generic dumb stuff like, how much electricity do you use, and, where are the utility rates in these different areas.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
a lot of, data sets like that.
Yeah.
And they were asking her, well, what do you plan to do with this kind of stuff? And she said, well, right now, if you go to any government website, just about, number one, it's awful to use. There's just a poor
User
experience.
experience.
Yes, yes, exactly. And most of them don't work on mobile devices, and so they're really trying to modernize the web of the U.S. government,
Yeah.
which is a monumental task in
Yeah.
itself.
I bet.
But she also was talking about giving, all that data, access to that data back to the people who have paid for it.
Yeah.
And one of the questions I thought was particularly interesting is, she was kind of rattling off all these different kinds of data that they had, like the utility data. And she's like, yeah, electrical data, utility data, water data, blah, blah, blah. And the interviewer stopped, and he said, water data? What can you do with water data? And her response was, I couldn't believe it in a way, but she said, well, I'm not exactly sure what I can do with water data, but I'm sure we have some smart people around who can figure that out. And I thought, oh my goodness.
Bling.
Yeah. And, I've had so many conversations with people in like Silicon Valley and around Grundfos that about what we can do with that kind of data. And I've talked with a couple of companies in Silicon Valley that are using existing utility data, for water supply companies, and they're trying to offer these over-the-top services for their customers that gives them access to all their
Yeah.
information, and kind of not everyone's into it, but the idea of comparing your usage to your neighbor, or
Yeah. It's
seeing
kind
what
of
the average is.
gamify
Yeah,
actually the
absolutely.
way that you live, because
Yeah,
that's one way of changing behavior, of
yeah,
course, and it's
absolutely. And
get the transparency.
I think it's natural for a lot of people to compare themselves to others,
Yeah,
but with that kind of data, then maybe it's a bit anonymized. So like, well, I don't know my specific
yeah,
neighbor's usage, but
yeah,
I know that the average usage in my neighborhood
yeah,
is this much, and I'm over the top. So, and these companies are trying to suggest ways that you can
yeah,
reduce usage. Like in California, there's a big drought going on,
yeah,
and the utilities have had a hard time communicating that
yeah.
to some of their customers. And one of the guys that used to live out there, he said that he uh, he stopped watering his lawn quite a bit,
Yeah.
over the summer. And he said, it was green, it looked beautiful. But then I look over at my neighbor's house, and he's watering it every single day.
Oh, so
And
there's
and you can see the water spilling over the curb into the street. And he thought, I didn't use nearly as much water as this guy, and my lawn looks just as good.
yeah,
So why wouldn't this guy clue into
yeah,
that and
yeah,
change his behavior? But
yeah.
he probably just doesn't realize it, or
No,
doesn't know it.
no,
And so the utilities are wanting to communicate that kind of
yeah,
information to their customers, but historically all you get is when you get your bill in the every month, they put a little insert in there, and you can read it if you want, but most people
yeah.
are tossing
It's
it.
not
But
it's not very intuitive
yeah, yeah,
in communicating it.
yeah. And they have no idea how many people actually read it or
No,
anything like that. So these different services are trying to, you know, increase the contact between the utility and the customer.
yeah,
So it's a really interesting business idea, but they're also very interested in what they can do with more and more data.
yeah,
Because, for example, these water guys, they can only measure usage like per day, for example, but that doesn't really tell them a whole lot.
no,
But if they could get something a little bit more granular, like every hour or even every minute,
yeah,
then they can do a lot with that.
yeah.
Because if you can,
Because then you could also start comparing it to energy prices at the
oh,
time,
absolutely,
there's a lot of
yeah,
time and location that can
yeah.
that can be put together, I
Yeah, and
guess.
a lot of companies, like especially energy companies, they have different periods in the day
Yeah,
where
exactly. Yeah,
energy is cheaper or whatever. And like they'll tell you run your dishwasher at night or something like that,
yeah,
so it's less strain on the grid. But the same can be true for water
yeah.
usage.
But so this Megan, CTO of
Yeah,
US, I
yeah,
mean
yeah,
that's what a title. I'm the
yeah,
CTO of US, the whole country.
yeah, yeah,
She sounds then like someone who will influence the decision both from a government perspective but also from a private perspective,
yeah,
of course.
yeah, sure,
So the question there then is that how do we kind of how do we matchmake ourselves towards her and her people,
sure, sure.
both to listen to what she has to say, but also to kind of get speaking time
Yeah,
from a Grundfos perspective.
yeah. Well, like that water question, for example, I think if we have some solution for her that
Yeah,
we can say, or maybe not her, but whoever is responsible maybe for that type of data, we can say, I know you've got all this water data, you may not know what to do with it. We have a few ideas. Here's
yeah,
some things you could do, and just see if we can get the conversation going,
yeah.
because
Well,
sometimes,
let's do an internal jam together with
yeah,
her people and Grundfos
oh
people.
yeah,
72
yeah,
hours. Let's brainstorm
sure,
what to do with water data.
yeah,
You know?
absolutely. I mean, we've got a ton of resources at our disposal,
Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of opportunities that are out there that we just haven't really realized.
mm.
And I think if we can, especially with an organization like that, where, and she talked about this in the article, where in her role, she affects hundreds of millions of people,
Yeah,
but with her connections to, say, the State Department that now goes outside of the country,
yeah.
you can affect billions of people that
Yeah,
way.
absolutely.
So, I mean, huge opportunity there.
Huge.
Yeah,
Interesting.
very interesting.
If people would like to learn more about your work and well your interests, etc.,
Yeah.
are you in Yammer?
Oh yes,
You're
I
on
love
Yammer,
Yammer.
so
Yeah,
so they can follow you there. Are you
yeah,
externally as well? Twitter,
yeah.
LinkedIn, anything?
You can pretty much find me about anywhere: Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. I like posting a lot of stuff, just traveling or stuff in my personal life, but when I find something interesting that I think relates to what we do at Grundfos, then I share that as well.
Okay. Well, let's share the article
Yes.
to the internal team, of
Yeah,
course, and
will do.
external as well. And thank you
Yes.
for joining me in my car.
Absolutely.
And for your
I
insights.
love your interview space. This is
Right.
so quiet and
Yeah,
cozy.
it is quiet. And there's no babies in the
Yeah,
back seat
yeah,
either.
exactly.
All right. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.